Still so many questions around COVID-19 and often it's hard to get a clear answer.
Well, one doctor is determined to clear that up. Dr. Michael Mosley, who famously introduced us to the 5-2 diet, has written a new book that aims to address all the misinformation surrounding the virus, and he joins us now. Doctor, thank you so much for your time. We've had so many opinions about a virus we still know very little about. How much confusion is there out there?
I think there is a lot of confusion, yes. I've been researching this book now for a couple of months, and I'm amazed about the amount of misinformation. But the great thing is that scientists have discovered an extraordinary amount, even in the last month or so. And it's been a real race, frankly, to write the book and keep up to date with everything. But apart from anything else, I've also been following the work of the people who are creating vaccines. There's the Oxford vaccine group here who are pretty close to producing a reasonable vaccine. So I am following it with great interest, and a couple of my kids have had COVID-19, so I have a personal interest as well.
The vaccine stuff is really interesting, and I'm sorry that your kids had to go through all of that. Would have been very stressful for your family, I'm sure. You're obviously in the UK as well, where it's been a very difficult time for a lot of people. The way the two different countries have handled this as well has been very, very different. What are some of the big misconceptions?
I think one of the big misconceptions, I mean, there are lots of crazy ones here in the UK. 5G networks, you know, people are still burning down masks because they think that, that is responsible for the virus. Where also people are taking mega doses of all sorts of strange things, vitamin C, vitamin D. Unfortunately, most of those things don't make any difference at all. There's also, from a scientific point of view, there are a lot of skeptics about the benefits of vaccines in general, and also skeptical about whether a vaccine is possible. And I'm actually wildly optimistic about it. I think we will get one pretty soon. And indeed, I volunteered for the Oxford vaccine, so I'm hoping to get a jab relatively soon and do my bit for the science. But I've loved writing this book, I must admit. And part of the book is also about how you can bolster your own immune system and keep it in good shape in case you encounter the virus. So it's all about eating well and sleeping well. And indeed, I wrote a book about that recently called Fast Asleep, because sleep is profoundly important for keeping your immune system in good shape. And I know you in Australia are doing remarkably well, and the virus isn't a big problem there. But I fear there may be something of a second wave coming. And there is evidence now that this is a virus which is also temperature dependent. And so it's possible that as you go into winter, you will see more of the virus. Fingers crossed you won't, but it's a possibility.
Well, we're just seeing now on the screen the tips to help us increase our immunity. But you're just saying there you think that we're close to a vaccine. When you say that, what are you talking? I think, you know, the earliest we've heard anyone say at this point has been December or the end of the year. Would you agree?
I think that's likely. The Oxford group have already done about 1,000 people and are looking for results. And they're now doing it in older people. So I'm in 63, so I fall into the second category. They want to test it in people who are more at risk. But the big challenge will be whether they can actually find enough people who have COVID-19 to properly test it on. It may well be that they will actually need human volunteers who are prepared to have the vaccine and then prepared to be deliberately infected with the virus to check that it actually works. And that is something that will be quite extraordinary.
How do you write a book on COVID-19 answers when we're in the middle of a pandemic with any credibility, given that we're still in the middle of it and we know so little about this virus?
Sure. I mean, the great thing is the science has just leapt, on hugely. There have been so many papers published. I'm in touch with all the leading researchers, and we are coming to quite a few clear conclusions. We know how the virus is transmitted. We know that it's mainly transmitted via droplets from coughing, even from speaking, and that one of your better protectors is to wear a mask. We know it starts off in the throat and it goes down into the lungs. And we know the sort of people who are at risk, people over the age of 70, people who are obese, people who have type 2 diabetes, and things like that. The consensus, the scientific consensus, is pretty clear now around a whole load of areas. And that's, I guess, what I'm writing about, the big Q&A areas, and that's a big chunk of the book.
Yeah.
Do we have any idea of the long-term damage coronavirus can do to a patient?
Yes, because unfortunately, if you survive, and clearly if you end up, most people will only get it very mildly, but if you end up in intensive care, then you are at serious risk, obviously, of dying, because if you're intubated, your chances of survival is less than 50-50. And then beyond that, we know that there's now problems with the brain. We see people having strokes. We see people having all sorts of neurological problems. So this is a very, very nasty virus if you get it bad. The only really good thing about it is it really doesn't seem to affect children that badly. And all the evidence now, some really good studies from Australia, show that it's not that infectious between children, and it's very unlikely that the children will spread it to adults. And that seems to be to do with the number of receptors for the virus that exist in children, much, much lower than in adults. So that's the good news. Kids don't seem to get it, and if they do get it, they don't spread it.
Michael, really good to talk to you. I could talk to you all day. You're a fascinating guy, and you've done some terrific research here, and you've compiled it into an easy guide. Thank you for your time today. We really appreciate it.